This last weekend, my wife and my son and I escaped the city and we took a weekend mountain getaway. It's so nice to get out of the city once in a while and away from home, even for just a couple of nights. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, and so we're about 4 hours drive to Banff National Park. Escaping to the mountains is truly a popular pastime for many Albertans. We try to get out as often as we can. If we're lucky, we make 2 or 3 trips a year. This particular time, I wanted to put the Pixel's camera system to the test. I've already done a couple of videos on the Pixel 6, both an unboxing video as well as my full review. I did manage to test parts of the photography experience in my review, especially night sight and portrait mode, but what a better place than the stunning views of the Rocky Mountains to get a sense of what the Pixel 6 is capable of. So let me tell you about the experience. On Friday, we hung out a bit in Banff's Central Park. It gets pretty dark pretty early in the winter, so night sight kicks in pretty quickly. Google's night sight is their low light image processing software that can pull in a lot more light and brighten up photos that would otherwise be pretty dark and lacking in detail. We then walked over to the Christmas market that they had going on. I stopped along the way to capture some images from the bridge crossing over the Bow River. I love the way night sight can get so much detail in the image. It's quite a bit darker than these pictures allude. That said, sometimes I feel night sight takes it a little far. For example, this picture of Mount Rundle in the distance is quite bright. In fact, if I didn't know any better, you could probably convince me that it's daytime. But as you can see, the street lights are on and the car headlights are lit. It's very much a dark winter evening here. Still, the thing about night sight is that it's an impressive feature that you can turn off anytime. The thing Google knows though is that most people will like the results most of the time, which is why it's on by default. At the Banff Christmas market, we got a chance to see Santa as well as check out some of the local vendors, and we stopped for a bit of a snack. I snapped a few photos here and I captured a sense of what the scene was like. They host the annual event at the Banff Trail Riders Stables, which is just on the edge of town. It was only about a 20-minute walk from our hotel. We enjoyed it so much we're already thinking of going back next year. Most of the photos here were great. I captured one here where night sight maybe didn't kick in, and so the subjects next to the tree aren't well exposed. I'm sure it's just because the tree is so bright, the phone didn't activate night sight, or it didn't adjust the shutter speed for low light. On Saturday morning, after grabbing some coffee, we went for a little walkout at Cascade Ponds, which is a beautiful little area with a walking trail and a few bridges over the small pond. It's at the base of Cascade Mountain, so you've got this majestic backdrop that is taller than the clouds, at least on this particular day. We walked the trail and around the ponds. There was plenty of snow, but the water isn't quite completely frozen. So you get to see some of the running water and some of the peaceful sounds that go along with that. Coming here in the summer versus winter is very different. There were very few people out here. It felt like we had a lot of space to ourselves. We just took some time to enjoy it. I was able to test out some landscape shots here. Here's a mountain in the distance from the wide camera, and then from the ultra wide lens. Obviously, it's great to be able to have a wider perspective without actually having to move. I think the ultra wide generally gets less detail than the wide lens. The wide lens is a 50 megapixel camera, but due to pixel binning, it produces a 12.5 megapixel image. The ultra wide produces a 12 megapixel image as well, but I think you're missing out on a lot of detail that the wide lens would normally capture. The wide lens seems to capture a photo that's slightly warmer, at least in this outdoor setting. The photos were taken seconds apart, so there was no change in the actual lighting, but to me, the wide lens feels warmer, especially if you look at the snow. The Pixel 6 also has a 2x button on the camera so that you can kind of get a telephoto effect. However, unlike the Pixel 6 Pro, the standard Pixel 6 doesn't actually have a telephoto lens, which means it's using digital zoom to achieve this photo. Still, it feels like we're getting good results with it. Another example here, the wide, ultra wide, and the 2x zoom. And another, the wide, ultra wide, apparently enough to catch my shadow, and 2x zoom. Another way to create wide-angle shots that are even wider is, of course, the panorama mode. You can create a panorama, but you don't have to go all the way across, and you can get a solid-looking wide-angle shot, and that's what I attempted here. We crossed over a bridge that crossed a small stream, and I tried out a couple of long exposure shots. Moving water is a great subject for this type of shot as there's so much movement while the shutter is open. It creates an interesting blend of the movement while keeping the rest of the picture in focus. I tried more long exposures later in the day when we went to Bow Falls, which is a waterfall right in the middle of the Banff town site. I grabbed one from in front of the falls here. There's a lot of ice and snow over top of the falls already, but you can see the water flowing along the side and out at the bottom where the long exposure kind of smooths things out. We headed up a set of stairs that kind of gets you to the top of the hillside along the falls. This gives you a better view of things as well as where the water is rushing out from under the ice. This is my favorite long exposure. It really adds a certain artistic quality to the photo to see the rapids turn into a smooth white mist, almost as if painted in. On Sunday, it was time to head home, but we decided to take a quick excursion to Lake Minnewanka first. The lake is about 5 kilometers from the town of Banff, and it's a short drive partway up a mountain to get there. I've been here many times in the summer, but have never actually visited in the winter. And it was so peaceful. Unlike the bustling, tourist-packed scene I have known in the summer, it was quiet, and we saw about 6 or 8 other people the entire time. I took another couple of shots with the wide and ultra-wide lens. This time my subject was Mount Inglis Melody, which is directly across the lake. There's something about the lighting of this particular morning. It was about 10:30 a.m. and it was overcast, but the conditions and the lighting just seemed to suck all of the color out of the scene. This photo is not edited, but it does look like it's in black and white. Kind of a cool way to end our trip. So let me know in the comments what you think of my amateur photography. I really enjoyed getting out there and testing the Pixel in certain conditions. If you can't tell, I think the Pixel 6 has an excellent camera system and it's on par with the latest iPhones easily. I purposely didn't do a comparison test though, because I think it's good to judge the camera and the photos it produces by its own merits. Photography is subjective a lot of the time, and I, for one, like the photos that the Pixel 6 produces. I also really love the mountains and Banff National Park. If you've been, then you know what I'm talking about. It's an incredible place that recharges my batteries every time I go. If you found the video interesting, click that like button so that more people can get this video recommended to them. And if you want to see more from Technology Paul, then click that subscribe button. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.